Hello. So it's been a great day, and again, Sanjana is back again on Unscripted with Pranav. How are you, Sanjana? After coming again,
Yeah, the first time was also fun, right? We spoke about a philosopher, and that was fun. So this is like a very not specific topic, which I'm more excited about, so that we can just talk about like more things and like keep it very conversational. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
right? Like you were also in the education space, and me also being here, trying to change something in the system. And one thing that I came across Anna Lorena Faberica's blog recently, where she spoke about things to unlearn from school. And I thought, let's try making a video with my own some few learnings, and let's try something new that we learn a lot from school, but there are few things that they teach us, but don't they don't really matter when we grow up, and that I think we should really unlearn right now. And first being what is like fear of failure, like to the longest time, I still remember that I was a straight A student till sixth grade, but then I started failing exams, and like that really caught up in my mind, and I started fearing a lot about the exams. And I used to pray on the results day ki teacher मेरे marks class के सामने ना बोल दे,
No,
like announce the marks in front of the class. And I think like uh, I like how was your experience during like your alternative schooling, where like what was your situation of failure with academics?
yeah, so the first thing, like you were saying now about unlearning from school. So obviously, unlearning is a continuous process from everything from our childhood. But I feel like, especially from school, because school they've made it in such a way that it's like an artificial environment, right? Whatever we do in school is not always applicable in real life, though we're taught or made to think that it is like that. So even if we learn maths, we think that if we are good in that kind of maths, then we'll be successful in life. But then when you grow up, you realize that you need different kinds of like approaches to maths to be successful or whatever you define success as. So yeah, I feel like unlearning definitely becomes part of your life when you look at school as just one small part of your education, and then education becomes like a lot more throughout your life. It's like always you're learning, right? So the unlearning becomes like a consistent process. And about my schooling experience about failure. Actually, like you were saying, na, you were an A grade student till the sixth. So I think I actually started studying only like properly from the ninth class onwards. Before that, I was exploring things, doing a lot of extracurricular activities. At that time, I was into baking, and I wanted to become a baker also for most of my life. So I used to keep experimenting, reading cooking books and all those things. And then only I got into like academic studies. So that failing thing never hit me until I became very like, okay, it's now studies. Until then, when it was like experiments and all, you can never go wrong, right? It's like you're always experimenting. You're doing like if a cake burns also, it's not a big deal, right? Like next time now I'll put the oven like at a lower temperature. So then it's like part of the process. Like I know now what to do. So I used to have a diary. I used to make notes what I should do the next time. So then that way I feel like when we look at education or schooling, I feel like in a way where it's part of life and not restricted to academics, then I feel like it becomes I don't know, failure becomes fun. Failure becomes normal, I feel. I feel like right now we have just made it look so bad. And that's how I feel like because of that pressure, we like people do a lot of other things like whatever, commit suicide or things like that.
Right, like for my that last 6 7 years of failing, I think has taught me a lot to resist and like to face that failure कि अभी चाहे कुछ भी I'm ready to face a failing situation and like that has taught me a lot but teachers to a certain extent parents scolded me that they were also correct कि like their jobs was the teacher's job was secured on our marks. So that was, I mean, true, but learning, failure has a lot of learnings attached to it if we have that mindset.
Correct. Also, one more thing is that
And
in my school there were no exams, but at the end of the academic year we used to get prizes. So let's say at the end of
continue.
So at the end of the year we'll get prizes. So let's
Before you say something people before you say something, people don't know much about alternative schooling that you have been through. So if you could briefly, if you can explain what alternative schooling is, so it would be great if you would.
Okay, so in general, alternative schooling is basically an approach to schooling that is not catering to the normal board or the normal education system that we all see, like exams and things like that. So the one that I went to is in Pondicherry. It's called Shorabindo International Center for Education, and the approach there was inspired by Shorabindo's philosophy of learning for the joy of learning and not because of some kind of stress or like pushing us to pass an exam. So he wanted everyone to have that innate motivation to learn for themselves. So that was the main ideology for my school. And so, yeah, there were no exams. It's not affiliated to any board. So we get a certificate at the end of my 12th and my college. I get like a certificate. And obviously, like government institutions don't take our certificate, like government institution in India. So either I get into private or I can go abroad. So those are the things. But now because of proof of work and all those things, it becomes easier, right? So then you start thinking about the normal education system also. Yeah, but I was telling you about the prizes, right? So right now in my school there were no exams, but at the end of the year you get a prize. So for your academics. So let's say now I get a prize for maths because my teachers felt like I worked hard and I was good at it. So he gives me one prize. So in front of the entire school, you will be getting that prize, okay? So there was this one year when I was in the ninth, okay? Mm-hmm. That year I was not like really into studies and all, and then I didn't get any prize, okay? For my entire life I've been getting something or the other, and that year I didn't get anything, okay? And because the entire school was there, it was like even more embarrassing, right? That in front of the entire school I'm not getting anything. So that can be looked at as a failure, but then for me I feel like you can take failure as like motivation also, no? So after that year I actually started like studying so much and I actually started enjoying studying. So then I feel like we can start looking at failure also as motivation rather than feeling bad about ourselves, like self-loathing and like feeling that guilt and all. Instead of that, I feel like if we can take failure and like turn it upside down and like make use of it, because it's finally like an energy, right? Whatever you're feeling, so make use of that.
Right. You spoke about proof of work. Like at school and everyone around us only focus on maths, science, physics. 11th में अच्छा स्कोर करोगे तो साइंस, उसके बाद कॉमर्स एंड देन अगर कुछ मार्क्स मिल गए देन ह्यूमैनिटीज. And mostly people focus on degrees but what I feel is and proof of work coming up now in the world where Falure like startups are like working towards proof of work and trying to get projects done. So what do you think? I mean, how was your studying? And what I feel is instead of just focusing on degrees and just marks, which school everyone does, we should focus on
proof of work. Yeah.
The plane or like disturbing every time. But yeah, like I was talking about proof of work that school should more focused on like building stuff, rather only focusing on marks. Because like if you like a student like studies till 24, 22, 23, and then gets into the real world, and that degrees are most of the degrees are not that relevant apart from few colleges. But like proof of work is like going to be great in the future, and that I think we should embrace and start building projects accordingly.
Correct. So then I feel like that's also one more thing to unlearn, right? That we have been told our entire life that if we get a certain number on a piece of paper, then we'll have a better chance at being successful. And our entire life, we have always made it our extreme aim to just get those marks, right? Like our parents, society, there's always that pressure. But like to the school that I went to, because there were no exams, the only thing that students here could fall back on was proof of work, or like finding whatever your calling is and then building something around that so that you are taken seriously. Because most of the time people just want that kind of certification or like marks to show that okay, he's good enough to get into this. But if we can make it about proof of work, then I feel like proof of work doesn't have to be just about a digital portfolio, right? I can make like so many physical things. So there was this guy in my school, like he was a senior, and he wanted to become like a designer, but like manufacturing things. So then he for sets. So there used to be drama plays in my school, and also he would design the sets, and he would document each and every step of designing that set. So how he got procured the elements, how he made it, everything, and he made his portfolio just those things. And because of that, he got like an internship in the US, and then he went to Berkeley, so things like that. So entirely on proof of work. There's no degree, there's no marks from my school, but still, just proof of work took him like wherever he wanted to go. So I feel like slowly people can see that someone's merit is what they are offering rather than what they are scoring. Then I feel like yeah, proof of work is any day a lot says a lot more about a person than just marks.
Right. And recently also, one proof of work I built was Ritin's knowledge portfolio. So it was kind of a project where I just curated his knowledge. Ritin is the founder of Falure. I had him on the podcast, so I made his Notion template, his database, and today, like a few days ago, a person from that Fueler community DM'd me ki I want to get on a call with you because I have a similar idea to work with you. Let's collaborate. So today I had a call with him before this podcast. So we spoke. I spoke with him, and it like that's how that's also a way you can network with people using full proof of work.
Yeah, because I feel like it says so much about you as a person. Let's say now I take a piece of paper and say that, okay, this guy got 90%. But that doesn't say anything about you, right? What do you like doing? I can't understand anything about your personality with that piece of paper. But now, if you created this YouTube channel with this thing that you made a database about Ritin, then it shows that what are you interested in? Who are you as a person, your personality, everything, right? Then people feel like connecting to you. So I feel like it also makes people a lot more human, right? If we show what we are doing and actually do it, and then I feel like it's easier to connect with a person who does rather than a person who just is a piece of paper. Yeah.
Right. And also like what we are taught in schools, like and made to give exams are just memorization, that they are not really focusing on actual learning after a certain grade. And they are children are told कि इसको रट लो, memorize this, ये periodic table के 10 elements आने वाले हैं, ये 10 formulas done कर लो, apply these formulas, life sorted हो जाएगी. But life is not like that, right? Like I tried to memorize different things. I couldn't memorize things which I didn't like, and the way it was taught, I think memorization should be banned from schools, and actual learning should be focused and focused on what the child actually wants to learn, is interested in, and maybe divert that learning into proof of work, and that actually can help for that child in the future.
Correct. So, like what you were saying, right, about memorization. So, I feel like most of our schools like focus on memorization because that's an easy way to get away with teaching, right? You just make the child do the work. But I feel like actually teaching is a lot more about facilitation, right? So, it's like the teacher needs to be like at that level also. So, I feel like the root problem then would be about like training teachers better, giving them a lot more respect, allowing them to also understand what education is about rather than just giving that burden on them, no, that you do, and then still not respecting them. So I feel like even on Twitter, you see, right, like everyone is like, "Would you wish you were taught in school?" I feel like that is the most useless question to ask someone because you're focusing on what should the school do, right? But then the biggest problem with our education system is how things are done because we are taught so many things, okay, like math, science, but the problem is that how we are taught the subject is the problem. So I feel like if we can focus on the how, the more important question for people to ask on Twitter would be, how do you wish you were taught this particular subject? That is something that would actually make a difference, would actually make people think rather than just saying, I wish I learned taxes, finance, those things. Because if you just said what, we would be taught in the same way we are taught like science, in a boring way, ratta karo. So then I feel like, how is the more pertinent question? What do you think?
I mean, what kind of lessons you want to learn? This question should be asked to a child, and because, like, when I was young, I liked reading comic books because that what interested me. That got my interest. Like I used to read about Shivaji Maharaj or Twinkle or Amar Chitrakatha because they had pictures. And when I got into school, like they told me to read these books, they forced me to read something, and after that, I mean, I lost interest into reading. उसके बाद कुछ 7-8 सालों तक I didn't read books. Not even school books, not even my what interested me. I think that should be like a child should be given in his or her books that interests him or her. That will build that habit of reading and maybe being curious.
Correct. So again, it's the how, right? Like the teachers or like your teachers didn't focus on how to bring out the joy of reading in you. They focused more on, okay, he has to be able to read. So they were focusing on just reading. So they were not seeing how will you actually build. So I feel like most of the problems can be solved if we start thinking about how rather than what, because we are already taught so many subjects more than we are like more than necessary also. So adding on to it is not going to solve anything. I feel like just making it more holistic. Like let's say taxes or personal finance that falls under maths only, right? So it's just the way that we're taught maths is very restricted to a textbook. So I feel like if the way or we started thinking how we should teach maths, then personal finance is a part of maths itself. Because if we wanted to teach maths better, we can make it more practical, make it more about real life, make it more about real situations. Then personal finance, taxes, everything are involved in that topic of maths only. So I feel like the main problem is we need to unlearn that we need more subjects. That's not going to solve anything. I feel like we need to start thinking how we can like make it better, make it more holistic. Yeah.
Yeah, and building that curiosity in a child is really important. I mean, the curiosity is like, I think it's an innate personal learning that a child rediscovers. I think asking questions is really important. You must also have discovered ki, like question. If you ask questions, you learn a lot. It can be random questions in a washroom or random questions while you're showering. That random questions lead you to different work. And I think that school restricts you to not asking questions. As in, अगर कुछ भी question out of the box पूछ लिया कि if you challenge the teacher or ask a different question out of the syllabus, the teacher scolds you or slaps you and makes you sit down.
Correct.
I think that a teacher shouldn't do, because that random question leads curiosity into learning.
Mm. Correct. So I feel like one thing, like I'll tell you just about me, is that in my school there was no like hitting and all those things like punishment wise, but then I feel like I was still scared to ask a question because I felt like other students might feel like I'm asking a dumb question or I'll slow down the class, so I would never ask a question. So I feel like that is something that I'm still unlearning because I'm still in university, right? And I still feel sometimes scared to ask a question, thinking that I
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
okay,
ahead.
I thought the thing. Yeah, so I still feel like I don't know, that hesitancy to like ask something because it's there in my head that I don't know, people will judge me or else I'm asking a dumb question. So things like that, I feel like I'm still unlearning that pattern where we need to ask a smart question. Obviously, we need to ask a question that is well thought out, a question that actually we're like struggling with. So all those things, but yeah, that's something that I'm still unlearning. Even though I had that space to ask questions, I always felt like it's also like the teacher's responsibility to create that environment of non-judgment or like a space where I feel safe also to ask something and not feel like judged or laughed at.
Yeah, right. And I think being different was what's the word? Was neglected. I mean, you were told कि एक जैसी दिखना है, एक जैसी यूनिफॉर्म पहनना है, and think like everyone. And you were looked upon if you asked a very stupid question, as you said. I think that was a that's what I learned in the last 2 or 3 years in the lockdown. Ki, I connected with lots of people on Twitter. I think that was the best thing that I did. Uh, and that's what I mean. School should encourage us, and like learning new things. Yeah, recently, I gave my English board exam. They asked me to write a letter to the editor. So old letters to an editor, and what I want to learn is how to write an old email. So that's the updation of the syllabus should be there. But yeah,
Correct.
and I think what you before the call yesterday, what you were telling me about learning was like a student learns when the child is playing, and that made me realize कि, when I was a child, during my lessons, like if someone I was playing, those were the times when I was learning a lot. Now also, I if I'm talking with someone, I am doing in an interesting way. So yeah, I mean, instead of just being into classrooms and learning about exams, we can have a model where we are in the out of the class and playing something, learning from that.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like now, right now, even in my course, there's a lot of research that says that play plays a huge role in a child's development. So even like my nephew, he's 1.5 years old, and usually people are like, he should start speaking properly, he should start reading, learn the alphabets. But again, like who is telling you that this is something that they need to learn? Why? Like I feel like we have just made everything so linear, right? Alphabets and then this, and then it's like a checklist like that. But I feel like learning or like growing is not like that, right? There's a lot of spontaneity. There's a lot of explorations. I feel like even if I leave my nephew like this alone, okay, for 15 minutes, he's going to be running around trying to touch things, trying to throw things, feeling things. So that's his way of understanding the world, right? By exploring, by playing. So I feel like if we are going to make an artificial environment for a child and say you sit down, read a book, and only write, okay. So I feel like then the child becomes like whatever he was, no, about exploration, and he was like trying to find the world, becomes so restricted to just a textbook. So then I feel like you're conditioning the child also that you can only learn if you pick up a book or if you pick up like a textbook or you need a teacher. So you make the child also dependent on someone else to learn. And whereas they're actually super independent and they can actually learn on their own, and we just have to give that environment, right? So I feel like that is also something that I also am constantly unlearning, because I feel like my entire life, or like whatever, while I was growing up, I was always waiting for permission, right? So my teacher says, yes, you can do this. I have to ask permission, only then can I do something. Even if it's something good, I have to take permission. So then, even till date, I feel like if I want to do something on my own, start a project, I'm waiting for someone else to validate my idea, say that, yeah, it's good, go ahead. This will work, so go ahead. So we're always waiting and dependent on someone else. Whereas if we were brought up in an environment where they were like, if you think it's a good thing, then you should do. So that gives that independence also, right? Have you ever felt like while taking a decision, like you want someone else to tell you what to do, what is correct?
Uh, to some projects, yes, to some things, no, because like there are some things maybe a senior is telling me, or maybe some if I want to do something, like I'll do my videos or I'll work on that idea, but there are some things that I still wait, or I'm scared to do that project because if something goes wrong, that person or someone will score me and I will be in a trouble. So I think that I'm still learning to unlearn, to wait for permission and just do that stuff, because I think that dependency on the teacher or a person fully, I think is not that great in the long term.
Yeah.
Because it to a certain extent restricts you to not go ahead with that your project.
So obviously, when I'm saying that you don't need permission, that doesn't mean like you disregard someone else's emotions, life, not like that. But
Yeah.
like taking into account all those things, like you can make a decision for yourself. Like I'm talking in the point of view of being independent. So yeah, that is something that I feel like I'm constantly trying to learn and to become more independent also. Not trying to, because I feel like till date, even my YouTube channel, right? I'm scared of like people judging me for the channel. So even when I started the channel, I never shared it with any person that I knew from school, except for my really close friends and Twitter. So Twitter is like people I've never like really met, apart from digitally, obviously. So I've never shared it to people from my school or people I know from that part, because I felt like I would receive judgment, right? Then I would be scared to post. So I just wanted a space where I could like post and without that fear. But I feel like I'm unlearning that sense of not waiting for them to think that it's right, and just knowing that if I know it's correct and if I know that I'm expressing myself, then to go ahead with it.
Right. I mean, with me, like for me, YouTube, I always wanted to do YouTube, like since my ninth grade, but I postponed it because of my 10th grade. But it happened, the Varun Dogirala's post was approaching and I had applied for it. It was a week later that it was starting. And I thought कि let's start weekly content and बनाते रहेंगे साथ में सीखेंगे भी. So that's what gave me the start this YouTube channel. And I didn't have the second thought कि चलो लोग क्या सोचेंगे इसके बारे में सोचते चलो. And that thought never came कि like my whole focus was कि वरुण डोगीराला का कोर्स आ रहा है, वर्कशॉप आ रहा है. Before that I have to start my YouTube channel. So I think that gave my the start of my YouTube channel.
But while like
And
doing your YouTube
that taught me a lot.
but even while doing your YouTube channel, what are the challenges you usually face?
Maybe being consistent is one of the biggest challenge, but I think making content in bulk, as in for the next week or the next month, is really helpful for me. And that's what like keeps pushing me. And I mean, I don't have that pressure of putting out, like, if tomorrow I have to put out the content, I don't have that pressure कि आज वीडियो बनानी है
Yeah.
कल पोस्ट करना है. So I have my video ready to schedule tomorrow, I think. So every content creator's struggle is to be consistent, putting out content at a
Mhm.
particular time in a week. So yeah, what's your biggest struggle
Biggest struggle, like
of being a content creator?
biggest struggle, like right now, consistency is never a problem with me because I don't know, like since I was like in ninth, eighth level, I got really into sports, right? So I always have that thing that if I start something, I have to keep going. I can't stop. Like that's why I'm like going on posting and like doing stuff. But then my biggest struggle is like I never said this on screen, but yeah, it is about like putting my content out there. Until date, like I was telling, right? I'm not scared about judgment from people I respect and from people from Twitter. Like those things I do not care, but from people I know, I am still like scared of that judgment. Because if you know me, then I was someone who was extremely shy. I would have never thought of talking in front of a camera or doing that. Like I always wanted to speak and like be heard, but I never thought that I would be capable to stand in front of a camera or like in front of an audience and like talk. Because I remember even in school, I did a play once.
Be on my podcast.
No, I did a play once, okay? And I had to practice so much more than the other people because I was so nervous of being in front of an audience because of the people that I know will judge me. So that sense is still there. I feel like I will be judged or like, so that's why till date I have not posted anything on my Instagram where most of the people I know follow me. So till now I only upload on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean I think sports has a big thing to play here. I mean, yeah, as in you mentioned sports while you were talking, I think that when you fail in sports, that has a huge advantage in your when you grow up. Where if you win, you have there are a lot of learnings. If it's a team sport, you learn team building, team collaboration. If you fail, you have that mindset कि अभी घर वापस जाना है. You have to get back to training and लोग क्या सोचेंगे if I fail. And yesterday only I tweeted this ki, if what who is your sports idol and what do you learn from him? Like I my sports idol is this Malaysian badminton player called Lee Chong Wei. He's a retired player. He got 3 consecutive silver Olympic silver medals. He didn't win a single Olympic medal, and still he got almost all medals, gold medals, and won multiple tournaments. And I think, including sports, I think should be a mandatory thing in our schools. They include, but only once a week. That too for 30-40 minutes. I think sports has a big role to play in our young life, which teaches you a lot in your adult life.
Correct.
I mean, you were also telling me ki you played a lot of sports in your younger life. You played almost 5-6 sports.
Yeah, so my school, I feel like, so right now when I meet people who didn't study in my school, like there's one friend I have, then he says that my school was more about circus training because we paid so much attention to sports and like people from my school can do backflips and like somersault and things like that because though we didn't have competition in academics, there was still competition in sports. So let's say like the month of April, the entire month will be like a competition for athletics. So there'll be 800-meter race or like 1000, 1.5K race or like 10K race. So or javelin, and then what's that called? Long jump, triple jump. So all these things. So that'll be athletics. So for each, my school paid so much attention to sports because they felt like the child will be ready to receive any kind of knowledge if the vessel, which is the body, is ready to receive that. So let's say now in our normal education system, we pay so much attention to academics, right? But let's say my health is bad. how do you expect me to learn or retain any knowledge if my body only is not capable of receiving that? So their main thing is that the first priority is your vessel. If that is not there, nothing else can come into that, right? So that's why there's a lot of focus given on sports, because it's looked at as an equal to academics. It's not that if you're good at sports, you can't be good at academics. It's like if you're good at sports, you will be better at your academics. So that perspective is something that I still believe in, because I feel like the moment I started getting better at sports, like I used to come extra hours and practice and stuff like that. So when I started doing that, I started applying those same concepts of like being consistent, of being regular, of being on time to my academics. So I started being more consistent with my academics. So it played like a very good role. Usually, like you see, even you right now when you're writing your board exams or something, your parents might be saying, no, don't spend your time like playing sport, or don't waste your time doing that, because you need to pay attention to sports. But even research shows that if you spend time physically doing something, then you have better chance of like retaining knowledge also.
Right. I was listening a podcast of Ranveer and Abadli. I think it was with Dr. Ritesh Malik, where he said that the for younger people, money comes first, relationships comes second, and health comes last. Or money, money, health, relationships, or money, relationships, health. But when the research was done on the older people, the same question, it was key. First for them was health, second was relationships, and last was money. So this was in the perspective of money, key what the importance of money for them. But here that health factor comes in, right? For the older people also, they realized key health was important. And I was reading this book last year called Ikigai, where it was for it is on how Japanese people,
Yeah.
a certain region of Japanese people, I think I don't remember the
They
city,
how they live the
but how why they all live above 95.
Yes.
I didn't understand the whole book, but the main focus was कि they focused on the health कि वो कैसे exercise करते थे, कैसे diet follow करते थे. So that's what made them live above 90-95 years.
Correct. So I feel like that's the thing, right? That's something that most people need to unlearn also, that sports or health is like a side to hustling. Whereas I feel like if you want to even hustle better or you want to work better, then health is like the most important backbone of everything, right? Like if your health is like zero, then eventually those other things also will like start to drop and like, yeah, be affected.
Right. So, like, I think we should end this podcast here, but I think we have covered all the points. But before we end this, what's your recommendations on what a child, maybe in a school, teenage life, wants to do something different, wants to do something out of the box, out of the school? What is the first step or the first few steps that they should take?
Okay, so this child is around what age?
Maybe sixth, seventh grade, up like eighth, ninth grade, where he has that understanding of himself and can use the internet.
Correct. So I feel like when you're that young adult, like that stage, when you're just understanding what you like doing, your personality or your individuality is formed, right? Before that, you were as a family or like you were part of something, but now you're realizing that I like this, I like those things. So once those things come in, I feel like you need to observe first what are your inclinations, what am I good at, but what do I like doing. Sometimes you're good at something, but it's not something you want to pursue. So I feel like first is to understand that obviously marks is not going to define you and what you're going to do. Rather than you need to start thinking for yourself and what you need to what you like doing, what are your preferences. So once the child understands that, then I feel like you need to start reaching out to people, because I feel like the internet can only give you one level of information, But right now, maybe Chat GPT also you can ask. But I feel like reaching out is the best thing. Reach out to people who you feel are people you inspire or follow their journeys. Try to understand. Like, let's say when I was a kid, that time when I was into baking, I actually went one day randomly to eat at a food truck. Like, one girl started a food truck in Pondicherry. So I just went there to eat. And because I liked her as a person and everything, I just reached out to her and said that, listen, I bake. Do you want to get whatever I can supply to you, and you can just pay me for that? And she agreed. So I feel like at that age, especially when the risks, you can take as many risks as possible, right? Like your parents are paying for everything, so just everything is open to you. So just try. So I feel like don't shy away from hearing a no. Don't shy away from failure. Feel like just explore. You need to explore at that age, like to the most, like to the maximum extent. Yeah, that's all.
Right. Risk taking is also one thing that is neglected, but and there are many things to unlearn from
School and
school.
life, yeah.
But yeah, I think we should cover that and that other points in the next podcast. Maybe you will be here on the show many a times
Yeah,
later
yeah.
on.
And I'm
But
open for introduction
yeah, in
now.
conclusion, like yeah, and yeah, I mean, like there are many things to unlearn from, like many things to learn from school. I mean, I learned to say no from school. I learned to talk to people.
Mm.
I changed 6 schools, and that taught me to learn. That taught me to talk to people. Introduced me to strangers. That taught me.
Correct.
And yeah, there are many things to learn and unlearn from school, but let's not be in the one fitted
Correct.
school and try to be different
Yes.
and showcase your creativity and try challenging the status quo. Famous
Yeah, just
quote
explore.
from
Like, don't be
the Apple
restricted.
ad.
Yeah, don't be restricted by your
Yeah,
school, your college, or like your marks. Just explore your, like, as an individual. Life can't just be about that, right? It's a lot more. So yeah, good note to end.
yeah, and yeah, and thank you for being here, Sanjana.
Thank
It
you,
was
Vicky,
a
for
pleasure
inviting
talking to
me.
you, and yeah, and these planes are like a bit hectic
Okay.
while filming. That's why I don't record in the afternoon.
I think all
But yeah, thanks for being here. We can
your
record
entire
anytime.
audience
But
is used to this, so it's okay.
audience doesn't know this that I record my solo videos
I
in
think
the morning,
morning.
4 to 6
Now
a.m.
they know.
in the between those two timings. And yeah, this is the first time I'm opening this up, and like there's only podcasts I do in the later day because the guest is not
Mm.
woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's late, and yeah, let's end this here because we will keep talking
Yes.
like this. And yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for watching, guys. And make sure you give a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I will meet in the next video.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Bye. See you in the next
Bye.
podcast, next video. Yeah.